Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss a report which suggests that one of the options being considered for the water industry is that of a sort of halfway house between privatisation and nationalisation. The water companies being run by private companies, but not for profit. No profits allowed, which is how things work in Wales. Could actually deal with most, if not all, of the major objections that a lot of people have with the way privatisation has destroyed our water industry in England. But first, for daily political commentary, please click the subscribe button so you don't miss out. So it's obvious that the water industry in England it's less an industry, it's really more of a criminal racket. Only it's not criminal because our governments have allowed it to work this way, so it's really just a racket. And there are essentially a number of problems with the privatisation of our water sector. The first is it can't possibly work in the way that the Tories claim privatisation works. You ask them, oh, we should privatise it. Why? Oh, because efficiencies of the competitive market. Oh, they have to compete with each other, which means they'll have to be, have the best quality and the best prices. And there is no competition for water. I mean, with some things, there's at least the illusion of competition, like energy, for example. You may think there's competition because you can choose your energy company. It's a lie because all the actual energy is coming from the same place, the national grid. It's all the same electricity, all the same gas. You're just choosing the company that you decide to give your money to and manage any problems you have. But with water, you don't even get that illusion. The water company you have is determined by your postcode. If you want to change water company, you need to move house. So there is no competition to drive good service and low prices. It's a farce. The second problem is that a private business is, of course, focused on profit. There is an inevitable part of running a business. Now, of course, there are some businesses that also value a reputation and value service and the quality of the service to the customers and will, take a little hit on the profits, but they still have to maximize those profits. Or at least, if not maximize, at least make sure they're making good enough profits. And for, there are those of us who don't believe that there should be profit involved in anything which can be considered a necessity. And that is because if you've got people, and you will always have some people who struggle with the cost of living, you're making them pay profit where there needn't be profit. For an essential, it's different if they could do without it. You can't argue people can do without water, right? But also, even the majority agree that profits shouldn't be prioritised over the service. And that, of course, profit shouldn't be pretty much unlimited. And the third problem, because our water industry isn't actually owned by private businesses, it's worse than that. They are effectively owned by random investment groups from around the world. So there's no interest on the part of the owners to deliver a quality service or to manage a reputation or anything like that. I think it's something like between 70 and 90% of our water companies are owned by foreign investors outside of the UK entirely. Don't give a shit how much shit gets dumped in the rivers. A private business at least wants to build up a good reputation. Investment managers in Dubai, they're not so bothered. They just want the best financial return. So the answer, of course, is nationalisation. The government, after all, are going to be blamed for for any poor service in the water industry. The Conservatives were quite rightly blamed for the levels of pollution in our rivers. They liked to blame the water companies, whereas who's setting the regulations? So the thing is, when it comes to public infrastructure, the government is going to get praise or blame depending on how well it works anyway. So why shouldn't the government just take control of it and then at least be the architects of your own destiny? So nationalisation is obvious. But there are two types of nationalisation. The type where the government buys the company, that's the quick way, which means however much it costs you to buy that company out, you cannot then use that money to build new infrastructure, which we're also desperately in need of. So the government borrows to pay for something that already exists, so it doesn't add to our infrastructure, therefore does not boost GDP. The Tory media calculate how much it will cost extra in taxes to service the debt later down the line, and the government lose the next election because nationalising it didn't actually make it better overnight, didn't make it cheaper overnight, certainly not before the election. The Tories then come back to power. They sell it off again on the cheap to their mates, who can then resell it at higher prices. You know, do you remember how that worked with Royal Mail? And the debt remains and is forevermore called Labour's debt. The Tories put up taxes on working people, but they say, well, this is Labour's fault. We've now got to deal with that debt they left us. Doesn't matter how mad you get at Labour for not doing this. There's a reason they're not doing it, so they're not going to do it. The other type is slower, but on the cheap. You acquire the companies as they go bust. So no real prospect of getting Royal Mail back anytime soon. But water companies, oh, they're going to the wall. Should be easy, right? Yes, but not quick. I keep saying the government must not take on the water companies' debts. If they do, the Tory media will calculate the tax rises needed to fill in that debt based on the assumption that the government will just borrow to clear the debt. Doesn't matter whether the government would plan to do that or not. The media will just say they do. Same result as buying it out. Now, I've said before, I don't know how easy it is to take over a water company via a process of temporary nationalisation and then turn it into full nationalisation without taking those debts on. The answer seems to be not as easy as some people think. And that is a deal breaker. We must absolutely not do anything, because if you do something that costs you the next election or even the one after, the Tories are going to come back. They are just going to sell it off again. They're going to sell it off again. And then they're going to put up the taxes and they're going to say it's Labour's fault. And then Labour are out of power for another generation, right? Then there's also the legislation that would be needed when parliamentary calendar is already full of urgent bills in a rush to fix 14 years of Tory national abuse. Labour have already announced their legislative programme. They're not going to put anything else into it that is not an emergency, right? But what if there was a way to leave the water companies technically privatised, but banned from making a profit? That would satisfy a lot of people. At the end of the day, ideology aside, why do many people want services to be nationalised? Well, at the moment, most would want them nationalised because privatisation is clearly not working. But essentially, it's because we want them run by people who focus on delivering the service, not profit. We don't want people being made to pay extra as well for something that is an essential of life. For something that is an absolute essential that everyone needs, from the poorest to the richest, we do not want the poorest having to pay more than is necessary just to fill the pockets of someone in Dubai, right? Well, if profits are banned, the bonuses for executives, there'd still be a bonus programme, but that can't include a priority for maximising profits, because there aren't any profits. Your job is to make zero profit. All right, then. You know, so all they can do is prioritise meeting budgets, sure, and delivering a service. And if profits are banned, then the cost to the public are also lower, because it's really this simple. You can run a company however you like. If you have profit on top of it, if you suddenly say, well, you can run it the same way but can't have the profit, it's suddenly cheaper. You know, you run it exactly the same way, but it's suddenly cheaper, right? And this is what is being considered by a new commission set up by the Labour government. Ban water companies in England from making a profit. If they go ahead with this idea, it would mean that the government wouldn't directly control the water companies, but if the main problem is corporate greed and profits aren't allowed, then a big part of the problem, maybe all of it, is solved, but certainly a big part is solved. It's the system that's used in Wales. It has been successfully used in Wales. So there is also another system within the UK from which to take notes from. Although don't hold your breath. The government are not thinking about doing this next year. This is, even if they decide to do this, it's clear that this is for the spending review in 5 years' time. In that time, of course, we may well find that one or two of the water companies find themselves being temporarily nationalised anyway, because, as I say, Thames Water especially is absolutely hemorrhaging money. The government have already said that as well, with the increasing bills needed to pay for the infrastructure that Thatcher promised and her precious corporate vampires never delivered. Not a penny of the extra will go towards profits or bonuses, because obviously a bit of a hot political potato at the moment, because bills are going up and they may go up higher than initially forecast as well, because this infrastructure does need paying for and the water companies have to deliver it. And people will be a bit aggrieved if they're thinking we're giving this company more money, because that's all people are going to see, right? They're going to see their bills going up for the water company that keeps dumping untreated sewage into their local rivers. So Labour have, for those who get the message, have made it clear that, yeah, the money they say they need for investment, ring fenced. So not a penny of it goes to bonuses or profits. Any money not spent on that investment for which it's been pitched, for which is in their business model, gets returned to customers. But in the meantime, it might well be supporting the idea of making water companies at least non-profit. Being honest, as I say, my two philosophies where this is concerned is essential services should be run with an emphasis on the quality of service for the budget, and that the budget does not have to be squeezed to make room for profits. You know, if you take those two things out of any essential service, the only factor remaining which determines success is the competence of those running the service. And you know, if the bonuses don't have profits linked to them, I mean, there's a much better chance of that happening as well. And from the way the report is sounding, it even suggests that this change, so if they went ahead with it, this wouldn't just apply to water companies going to the wall. Oh, you're going to the wall? Right, we're just going to now turn you into we're going to take it off you and turn it into a non-profit. It would actually just apply to all water companies in England. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, please click the like button and subscribe. And if you'd like to support the channel further, you can join for memberships. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.